Good morning, Miss. My name is Zunia Buhosun. Uh, my ID is SUKD 2200148. So today I'm going to talk about abuse of leadership authority. So the introduction. So leadership entails inspiring those under one's charge to work together toward a common goal and helping individuals under one's charge realize their full potential. Legitimate authority entails the capacity to make decisions for others, influence their behavior, or restrict them from pursuing specific action. A successful leader should be able to develop a variety of vital abilities for the position, such as efficient communication, the ability to express thanks, the respect of subordinates, the capacity to uphold integrity, the capacity to extend influences, etc. The leader is misusing his or her powers when he or she deviates from these characteristics or uses them excessively in a way that are not in compliance with the establishment laws for government subordinates. Abuse of power happens when a person in a position of authority refuses to accept responsibility for the welfare of others under their charge. This manifests itself in numerous ways, all of which are profound immoral. Corruption, sexual assaults, apportion blame, and concealing wrongdoing are but a few of the numerous ways that authority can be abused. Managers and executives may misuse their authority by, for instance, publicity humiliating their employees or threatening to terminate them. Utilization ethics in leadership refers to the efforts made by leaders to ensure that the overall satisfaction of a particular organization is maximized. The morality of a person's action or behavior is determined by their action or behavior consequences. The purpose of utilitarianism is to minimize immoral issues like suffering and misery. It is a reality that the decisions made by leaders impact the lives of individuals. While making such decisions, leaders must choose normative assessment for the human goal and the tools to achieve it. The fundamental objective of utilitarianism is to determine what kind of happiness we seek. It is essential to examine whether a particular activity would actually maximize happiness. The next concern is the practical application of maximized theories that results in surprising moral behavior applications. Leaders must differentiate between the subjective and objective implementation of the maximized principle. While a leader may believe that their actions are in the best interest, this may not be the case. Leaders face challenges in persuading those they serve that they are not causing harm. This requires them to consider not just their own subjectively but also that of others whose lives are directly impacted. Deontology. In concordance with deontology principles, people owe it to those who legitimately depend on them to meet their needs or claims. One obligation is to other are varied, or hence these claims are resolved by applying reasoning to an ethical concept. Deontology ethics are something referred as non-consequentialism, ethics formalism, or ethics of respect for person. All terms coined by Nepal. Decisions according to deontology theory should be evaluated based on their context rather than their outcomes. Leaders should re-evaluate their use of authority before abusing it. Deontology, that is the study of the day and philosophical parlance. It refers to duty-based ethics. Says that the idea is usually seems as too rigid and basic when it comes to a single situation. But it's important when framing cases, providing norms that are not absolute when dealing with groups of cases and defining frameworks. Social justice and social contract theory. Social contract theory is an additional theory that describes society, the relationship between norms and regulations, and why society needs them. Despite not imposing specific moral standards on its adherents, social contract theory explains why institutions such as government exist. Without the social contract hypothesis, people would have much harder time seeing why authority in the form of government is necessary. With respect to the execution of laws against abuse of leadership authority, social contract theory is crucial because it provides a justification for the authority that the law enforcement has over the general populace. To ensure safety, society has accepted the status quo of police enforcement holding a disproportionate amount of power. When the law enforcement goes above and beyond what people can reasonably expect, the contract is broken. Virtual ethics. So the term virtual ethics refers to the broad group of moral systems that place a large emphasis of being virtuous than on doing one's duty or acting to produce positive outcomes. Before a leader can begin to amplify the virtues required to manage an organization, he or she must recognize what duties he or she owes to the organization and what duties to the organization owes to the larger organization or society to which it belongs. In light of this, it is critical to develop leaders of character who understand what it takes to lead well rather than just what it takes to lead effectively in terms of procedural adherence, job completion, or logical reasoning. It is crucial to develop an ethics theory that explains what good character is and how it can be developed. If we were to provide leaders with the tools they need to make ethical sound decisions, especially in difficulty situations, and if we were to produce good leaders amongst subordinates. Egoism among those in their position of authority within the law enforcement committee may have contributed to inappropriate behavior. It is impossible to describe an egoistical those leaders who misuse the confidence and power of the general population. When law enforcement personnel make decisions like this, they are more concerned with protecting themselves than they are with protecting the agency. The civilian who is being targeted or the public interest. With this ethical egoism, leaders might see their actions as an outward manifestation of a deeper, more fundamental desire for social harmony and individual esteem. Every step in a proper direction we take is driven by our desire to make the world a better place for ourselves through exertion. Leaders who are driven entirely by their own self-interest might yet convey the appearance that they are acting with moral propriety. Recommendation. Support system. So in order to determine whether or not power is being abused with the organization, employees should be asked to submit anonymous surveys In the policies manual that company provide outline the procedures that employee needs to follow in order to make a complaint. Reassure the staff that any investigation into potential abuse of authorities would be conducted. The staff that any investigation into potential abuse of authority would be conducted immediately, fairly, and in strict confidence. Before drawing any conclusion, it is important to first conduct unbiased interviews with both the suspected offender and the victim to collect as much evidence as you can. Only in extreme cases should a business hire a workplace consultant to mediate employee dispute and advise on the creation of policies and products to prevent the abuse of authority. Recommendation: leadership training. So the best way to excite and inspire others is to set a good example for them, and true leader does just that. When subordinates repeatedly fall short of expectation in their performance, it can sometimes reflect poorly on the leader. Because of this, the leader is placed in a difficult and stressful position. The company should provide supervision and managers with leadership training in order to assist them in developing skills essential to becoming as effective leaders who treats his subordinates with frames and respect. There are a lot of different ways to lead and a lot of differentiate tools for leading, and they can all be useful in different situations. Recommendation: punishment-based measure. So in certain circumstances, it is possible that we have to go around in the intervention level. The employees must be terminated immediately if the abuse of power included physical assault on another worker. Equally, dismissal may be necessary if the powerful individual abused her or his position, for example, stealing from the company. To what degree the victim and or the company have been affected by the misuse of power will determine the hardness of penalty. When an employee is disciplined, the policy should include consequences like verbal and written warnings, suspension, termination, and even legal prosecution. So, recommendation: ethics code. So the inappropriate use of power has the potential to create havoc in the workplace and cause mental, physical, and or emotional anguish for the victim or victims. An additional function of power abuse in the workplace is the promotion of individual interests and at the expense of what is most benefit to the group. Defined in the policy manual the behavior that are acceptable and those that are not acceptable. Provide explicit example of the kinds of behavior that result from abusing one's position of authority. Make it clear that if such behavior is prohibited, and state that those who engage in it risk being fired. Recommendation: intervening efforts. So, misuse of authorities or bullying calls for a quick action. In a single extreme instance, an informal intervention with accused bully may be appropriate. Let everyone know that they are expected to maintain a professional demeanor while on the clock. If leaders continue to abuse her position, we should call another meeting and provide them with all the evidence you have against them, including employee complaints. So to reduce the quality of complaints, he or she may change their behavior. If the person behavior does not improve, you should take stronger action. If they has demonstrated promise for leadership in the past, their current behavior may have more fundamental cases such as stress at work or personal problem. Suggest setting a timetable for the leaders' review, stressing the importance of their accepting responsibility and outlining the consequences them failing to do so. Thank you.